Okay, so this is my last video of the day. I know I'm trying to get this page rolling and I keep getting interrupted, but I'm just going to quickly talk about what happened to my sister. My sister was a very spiritual being. She was very into like tarot readings, very, very spiritual. She loved anything to do with the universe, moon, the sun, horoscopes, all that stuff. And I remember for a long time I thought she was kind of weird because of it. I really didn't believe in any of that. And, I kind of felt like it was voodoo. But there was a very loving aspect to, her religious views. And for a long time, we really didn't talk about it, like she wouldn't talk about it because we all thought she was weird because she was into this stuff. And towards the end, she started saying things like, I feel like I'm not going to live very long. My anxiety is getting the best of me. My depression's getting the best of me. She had gotten into drugs when she was about 15 years old. She was following right behind me, and I really didn't know it for a while. There were times when I realized it and times when I didn't. I was so stuck in my own sickness that I didn't really see how bad hers was getting. We were very, very close. We lived in different places together with our boyfriends, we both had trouble in school. I was very smart in school, but I didn't go. There were times where she didn't go. I skipped a grade, and most of that grade I didn't go to school. And then towards the end, my sister barely graduated. She had flunked out and spent the summer going to summer school, and she was also addicted to heroin at this point. So, I would push her to go. I would take her. I'd be like, you have to go to school. You have to be a graduate, It was something that, I just didn't want to see her not have a high school degree. That's huge. And I know that for a lot of people, they don't get it because of drugs or alcohol or abuse or whatever. And, she really needed that. And it was hard for her to finish school. It really was. Towards the end, she was having a lot of trouble the summer after she graduated. She would do drugs and, her face would blow up. She would have swelling. We would go out to Erie and she would, almost overdose. There were plenty of times I took her to the emergency room because I was so scared she was going to die. And she didn't really see the problem in what she was doing. We were both addicts, but our approaches were different. Mine was like, okay, I'm going to do a little bit. And then as I go forward, if I need more, I need more. Hers was like, I'm going to do it all and I don't care what happens, And this was a really scary thing about her. She didn't care what drug she did either. It wasn't just heroin. It was alcohol, sometimes meth, cocaine, acid. My sister did not care what she did. She would do anything to get outside of herself because she was the problem. Internally, her feelings is what bothered her. She had insane anxiety, terrible depression. She went back and forth. She had been abused. She had gone through a lot of different things that I think affected her in her adulthood, her early adulthood. And she didn't talk about them. There was a lot of things she didn't talk about. Now, on the other side, she did a lot for people. She loved her friends. Her friends meant everything to her, and she would do anything for her friends, including herself for her friends. So there was a lot of times when she would try to help people, and she would get stepped on because she wouldn't think about herself. She also was a follower at times. People would do something, she would do it with them. There were other times when she was the leader, and when she would, put her foot down and do good things for people, and they would love it, and they would follow her. She gave great advice. I remember I finally heard her speak about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. And it was the first time I'd ever heard her speak at a meeting. And I was blown away. I was like, wow, my sister can speak like me, because it was always like, Bree, Bree, Bree. Everything's about Bree. Well, for somebody who's a younger child and you have an older sister that has the good grades and the child and, is doing this and that, you feel like you're kind of a shadow. And I feel like I kind of left her in the dust a lot. I constantly overshadowed her. And that caused her to have a lot of resentment towards me at times, even though she was my best friend. We did everything together. We shared clothes. We shared makeup. We fought all the time. We used to get in fist fights. I remember one time she stabbed me. You can't actually see it. There's a line here. We went and we had this medal that we found, and we tried selling it. Well, we only got $8 for this medal. So she got all mad because, of course, I can't share $8 with her. It's only $8. Well, she had helped me. So she got super mad and she threw a piece at me. And then she took another one and ended up stabbing me with it. It was kind of by accident. But, then I came home and complained about it and got money because I had a big gash, on my arm and I had to wrap it. But, yeah, we were just funny. But towards the end of the summer of 2016, I had been getting in a lot of trouble. And, my sister was very aggressive at times when she was in active addiction. So she would get very, very mad if she couldn't just make money up here like that. Okay. she wasn't the type to go out and like physically rob people. She wasn't the type to like prostitute, nothing like that. That was not how she was. Had she done that maybe down the road, maybe, but not at that time. So she expected me to get money. It was kind of like, Bree, you get the money because I'm not going to do anything. Same with my ex, you know, he kind of expected me to figure out the money situation towards the end too. And it was pretty pressure. It was a lot of pressure for me, considering like, you know, if it didn't go one way, it definitely went another, which wasn't good. We lived at my grandmother's house. She would give us, you know, $200 a day sometimes just to be like, keep us quiet, especially my sister, who would get mad if she didn't have money. So it was definitely pretty sad because, you know, both of us had our ways of manipulating people. I was just manipulative. She was very aggressive because she didn't know how to be manipulative. So we both really hurt people one way or another. And, you know, at the very, very end, I remember, you know, saying to her and my boyfriend, like, listen, I'm going to get in a lot of trouble. And, you know, I don't know what's going to happen. And I remember her saying, like, well, you're the only one that's going to get in trouble. She didn't think that she was. Now, she had been robbing some of her friends, you know. So one of her friends eventually did charge her, which she didn't know this. So when I got in trouble, eventually my sister did as well. Okay. So she got kind of looped into my situation. And when I finally suffered the consequences of the money I had gotten, one of her friends had charged her, and she had been charged with conspiracy as well. So at first they couldn't get her. She was actually at home, and the cops weren't going to just roll up and take her out of bed, you know. So one day she kind of like bugged my mom into giving her money. My mom said no, so she like held my mom in a bathroom for a little while. It wasn't like dangerous or anything, but my grandma got freaked out, called the cops. Well, eventually she did get arrested, and she ended up sitting in jail for a little while, probably like 2 weeks, you know. She was 18 years old, so they didn't want an 18-year-old in jail. You know, drug court immediately signed her on. They were happy that they could save her life, and it was really important to drug court, especially Leanne, to help her and I. And I was resistive to drug court. A lot of the girls in the jail said to me, don't do it, it's a trap, don't do it. Now, mind you, I just wanted to get help at that point. I was done. I don't want to live like that anymore. And I really didn't care if I lived or died at that point either. Like, I was kind of just like, it's over. Either I die from an overdose or I live. And my sister was worse in the way that she was just like, all I want to be is fucked up. That's how she felt. She just wanted to be messed up all the time. So if she wasn't messed up all the time, then she couldn't stand being sober and normal. And I just wanted to feel fine. I just wanted to feel normal again. I wanted to live, you know. So she kind of got pulled out of her state of mind. She wasn't ready yet, okay? So when she got thrown in jail, wasn't ready to get clean, you know. I remember she was like planning like different things. I mean, I was too, but like she was really not planning on, you know, fixing her life yet. She was 18 years old. She'd barely partied. She'd barely experienced anything. And at 18, are you really ready to be an adult? No, you're not. So, you know, a lot of people kind of bullied her in jail. I remember there was a TV on the wall, and somebody had actually previously broken the TV prior to her coming in. And when she came in, they found out the TV was broken, and she reported it because she wanted the room next to me. And when she got it, she found out the TV was broke, and they gave her an IR and a demerit, which is like a bad thing. And they kind of put her in double lock in her room for like a week. So she had to sit in her cell for a week by herself because somebody else broke a TV. And I felt so bad. And then I remember she was sick and she was withdrawing, and I was like, you know, slipping cookies under her cell and trying to help her out, but there was only so much you could do. And they were going to try to put her up in the bars, which is like a place where like the bad girls go for flooded, you know. So I was like, you know, I didn't want my sister up there. She's freaking how old? You know, she was only 18 years old. She doesn't need to be up there. So after that, then she went to rehab. She went to Kids Escaping Drugs, which is a very good rehab. I speak for them. I love them. I love their team. They're very nice. They're not judgmental. They're amazing people. And she spent the first 6 months there where she felt like she was being treated like a child because she was 18, 19 years old at this point and felt like she couldn't do anything, which I understand because these kids in here are, you know, between the ages of like 12 and 22 or something like that. So, you know, you got a lot of different age groups there. You've got people who are just becoming teenagers and people who are becoming adults. So, you know, my sister really didn't like being treated like a child. She had graduated high school, and these people were still in school. So, you know, for her, I think this bothered her. What? No. After that, when she left there, she had been put into a halfway house in Olean, where she had met her boyfriend Tyler. Now he had been doing pretty good. He was new to recovery, but not really to drug court. I think he had like 6 months clean or something like that. And he really liked Whitney a lot. And she had been kind of messing around, talking to guys, doing her thing. She was by herself, and I think for being 19 years old and never living alone or what. Yeah. But I think for somebody who had never lived alone in her own apartment or anything, I think it was really hard on her. And I remember she met this girl, and the girl said, "Hey, if we do drugs together, I have fake pee and I can give it to you." And this is what she told Whitney. And Whitney being how she is, she went along with it. I don't know what she did. I think she did. I want to say it was crack. She did crack with this girl, and then I think she did heroin too. And she also had started abusing her Wellbutrin and gabapentin. She was shooting Wellbutrin, which I don't know how you do that. That's a new one for me. Shooting Wellbutrin and taking tons and tons of gabapentin that was prescribed to her because they let her have her meds freely in there. And she was getting really, really crazy. And I remember her calling me, and she didn't make any sense. She was, losing weight, gaining weight, going back and forth. She had gotten real insecure because she'd put on 60 pounds, and finally was losing weight again. But she was real mean. I remember she asked "Yo, can you guys come up and give me some money?" Me, my mom, and my dad. So we drive up there, and my dad didn't have any money to give her, and she got really mad. She said, "Well, just go home then." And I remember feeling really sad for my parents because, my dad really wasn't big on doing those things. And this was the first time he had really, really tried with her. He'd felt bad and really tried to help her and go out there and bring her money and help her through the rehab situation. And my mom's done everything in her power to keep us kids okay. So for her, obviously, it was, hurtful to come up there and see your daughter, and she doesn't even want you there unless you give her money. So immediately I knew something was wrong, but my family didn't want to say that, they didn't want to jump to conclusions, and I agree they shouldn't have, but I knew, So then, one day I think she ends up failing a drug test in Olean at the Wendy house. And this girl had gotten in trouble too eventually. I can't remember what happened. I think the other lady got in trouble a week after her, but she had somehow screwed Whitney over to the point of not giving her the fake pee or whatever. And my sister got caught, right? Because obviously she's not good at hiding things. So she had gotten caught. The police came. She said, "Sorry, Bree, I messed up. I relapsed. I'm going back to jail." Well, she went to jail, and I remember I visited her in the jail. And I was so happy to see her and know she was safe, know that she was in good hands. The COs at Chautauqua County Jail are amazing people. There are some really nice COs there. I don't care what anybody says. Some of the nicest people I've met are the people that work in that jail. And, they were happy to see her back, instead of being "Oh, yeah, you relapsed, you piece of crap." They're just happy to see you there. And that's what's nice about the COs there, is they really cared about you to a level. I'm not saying they all do, but some of them are really good people. So then she's in jail. She gets out of jail. They send her back to the kids' rehab, okay? So now she's at that kids' rehab again. She stays 2 months. She's still with her boyfriend. They're happy. They're still getting along. She misses him a lot. He was the love of her life. She loved him so much. All she talked about was him. And, I'm happy she passed away with a guy that loved her. I'm just happy that she was in a relationship with someone that really meant something to her, because prior to that, her relationships just weren't so great. She had been in one that really meant a lot to her that didn't work out, and the guy had moved, and that really hurt her. And prior to that, she had been with a guy that, was also had gotten her into drugs as well, and he had his own problems, and he was, had abusive tendencies. So I'm just saying, nobody's perfect, but she had finally been with somebody that actually treated her right despite his own addiction. And he was also in recovery as well. Well, then she went to that kids' rehab. She finally got sent out to Buffalo to live in Lockport. So she was in a halfway house in Lockport. I drove out every weekend to pick up this girl. I would go out there, pick her up, bring her home to Westfield. She would have no gas money. I would give her food. I would pay for a lot of different things. It costs money to go and drive out, 2 hours away every weekend. and I just started working. I was in the nursing program. I was getting really annoyed with the fact that I had to go out there and pick her up every 5 minutes. But, she was happy to see her family. She was happy to come home. But in the end, it was more or less she wanted to go see her boyfriend. So I would go pick her up and she would go see him. That's really what kind of pissed me off, was that I was literally just picking her up so she could see her boyfriend. But, at this point, I would do anything to pick her up to see her boyfriend. So, I remember I went in her house and her room was beautiful. She had all the tapestries up and all her friends loved her at the halfway house. I mean, they really, really liked her. And I remember she got all mad because I think they thought she didn't do the dishes or they thought she ate somebody else's food, and she really didn't. And the whole way home, she was bitching like, Bree, I didn't eat her food. I swear to you, I didn't eat it. And they're all going to yell at me because they thought I ate it and I really didn't. And it's just, it's funny that halfway life is like that. You live with a bunch of girls and everybody fights over drinks and, who stole whose leggings and this and that. But like death is really on the line. And that's the thing, is like, we fight over all that dumb shit. We think about all these little things when we're in halfway houses or we're at home with our families, and we don't realize, like, we're battling a real addiction here. And if we fail at it, we die. We die. And, I've lost so many people. It's like, I don't know, man. I wish I could have her back. I really do. And then after that, she finally came home from the halfway house after a couple months. She was doing really good. She almost had her year. She came home. And as soon as she came home, I knew things were kind of sliding in a different direction, because now, she was taking kratom, which I'm all for kratom. I don't have a problem with it, but she was taking it dramatically all the time, like pounds of it. Then she had stopped taking that, and I knew something had changed because she had stopped. What? In a second. Wait till I'm done. So then after that, I'm talking about Aunt Whitney. So then, time had gone on. She started staying with her boyfriend more. All she cared about was seeing her boyfriend. But she didn't have any money. She couldn't work because she was still in drug court. So she was like driving back and forth, trying to get to her appointments, trying to make it to counseling and all her drug tests. And, I think at one point she was using synthetic urine, but I'm not sure, because she had told me something about being able to use fake pee to pass a drug test. And that's something that like is important to talk about, because like rehab and drug court and probation don't realize that people use fake pee to pass drug tests, and that's what she was doing. And she started doing other things. I don't really know who she was doing it with. I don't know if it was with her boyfriend or not. Personally, I think she was meeting up with different people and kind of like dabbling in other drugs. But I think this was after a little while, more towards the end. She had tried to get multiple jobs and couldn't maintain them. One of them, she tried working out in Mayville. Somebody had yelled at her, given her a hard time. She came home crying. She had her gallbladder taken out, and she was given pain meds for that, which caused a whole nother problem. She had real bad anxiety, depression. She cried constantly. She was mad all the time. She was really fighting this battle. And she was also working for kids escaping drugs. So like she was trying to go and speak to these kids and help them. And I remember I got all mad at her and I said, why are you doing that if you're not like doing, you're not doing good? Why are you talking to them? And what I didn't realize is I was actually putting her down, because she was trying to save her own life by speaking to these children. She was trying to help herself to survive by giving back to the community, by helping people. She was trying to convince herself that she was done. And in reality, she wasn't done. And, I kind of put her down, and I feel bad for putting her down, because, I was so self-absorbed and egotistic myself, and I really, I love my sister more than anything, and I was scared she was going to die. And I remember telling people, oh, I'm afraid my sister's going to die. I don't want her to die. But like, I knew in my heart that something bad was going to happen. So, then she started coming home. She had taken my mom's car, drove it off with it, basically had it for a couple of months while she was staying out with her boyfriend. And, he really couldn't do much about it. He really loved her and he listened to her a lot, and he would do anything for her, and I know that. And there were probably times where they didn't get along because of the things that were going on, and she wasn't always easy to deal with, and I'm sure he isn't either. But, I know that they really loved each other and they tried. And I know it was really hard. There were different people around them that were using, and I feel like you can't, when you go into a halfway house, he was staying in a halfway house, and I feel like a lot of people, if you're not careful, there's people in the halfway houses that use. So like you're introducing drug addicts to drug addicts. And I think she needed to get a job and move on with her life. And my mom tried helping her to do that by, when she got off drug court finally, my mom wrote a letter to the state saying she shouldn't be on probation. Well, this was a fight me and my mom had. I told my mom, I was like, she needs to be on probation. They need to drug test her. I feel like she's not doing so good, and I want her to keep getting drug tested. And this was the argument I had with my mother. My mom said she's never going to get better. She can't live. And my mom was right. My mom wanted her to feel guilt-free. My mom wanted her to feel like, she could move on with her life and live and not feel guilty and shameful for all the bad things she did. And my mom was trying to set her free of that by, the people in the court system knew a lot of the bad things she had done, and I think they judged her for them. And my mom was trying to free her of that and set her free to make her own choice to mess up or not. And my mom knew that probation was only going to prolong her life, and if she wanted to keep using, she was going to use. And I think in that aspect, she was right. My end of the spectrum, I thought she should have stayed on probation and then maybe sat in jail if she needed to. But in the long run, all it would have done is prolonged her life, and then she would have relapsed and possibly died after. So I don't know. I think the only thing that gave her love and light at the end was speaking to the kids. Her kids escaping drugs was huge to her. Her boyfriend was huge to her. Her friends that supported her and loved her was huge to her. And I think when she started getting bad, she couldn't ask for help. And I think she didn't want to let everybody down that she had been helping. She didn't want to let all these people down. She didn't want to let her friends down. All these people that had looked up to her. She finally was becoming somebody. And it really hurts me to know that I may have contributed to her shame and her guilt. But I couldn't help her. I knew I couldn't help her, and I knew there was little I could do. We went out to a rave one night, and, we went out to that rave, and she wanted to drink. And I said, no, I'm not buying you any alcohol, Whitney. You're not of age. You're not old enough. I'm not buying you any. And she said, well, who cares? And I was like, I care, because I don't want you to get bad. I don't want to get in trouble myself. I don't want you to get in trouble. I love you. I don't want anything to happen to you. And she had been taking a lot of gabapentins, and she was telling me about that. And I told her, like, listen, you're still abusing drugs. You gotta be careful, And then the day that she passed away, she had gotten off probation. She went to court the night before. My mom had picked her up. I think she had gotten some sort of argument with her boyfriend or something. I can't really remember. And she had gotten a ride home from my mom's boyfriend. They went and picked her up. They wanted me to pick her up. She had asked me for money and a ride, and I said no, because I'd work in the morning. So they went and they got her, and she had texted me, and she said, oh, we're laughing about your room over Chinese food. And I'm like, that's awesome. And it was the first, kind of real conversation we had had in a long time. She came home, and she put on, in the morning, she woke up. She took half her gabapentins. She had told me that she had a bunch of them, and I told her not to take them all because I got scared that she was going to overdose. So I said, Whitney, don't take them all. Now, little did I know she was going to do heroin the next day. So I didn't mean to, kind of set her up to fail, but, I just didn't want her to do them all and die. So, I kind of got mad at her, like, listen, don't do them. You don't need to be doing them. And she was like, oh, it's fine. I'm only going to take a couple. Well, the next morning, she had taken 10 gabapentin before court, I guess to ease her anxiety. She thought that she was going to get probation. So she had planned to do heroin one time, and then she wasn't going to do it again. She did have it planned out. She had gotten Narcan, the whole thing. And she was set to meet the guy at a certain time. And then what had happened was, basically the boyfriend couldn't make it to her in time, and she decided to go on her own. And she did that. She went on her own. And after probation, the judge said, well, because of the letter your mom wrote, I'm not going to give you probation. You've done great. We're going to let you live your life, Whitney. They had dropped all her charges, and she looked at the judge, and she said, you saved my life. And the irony is she died 2 hours later. So, my sister walked out that door, came home. I heard her walk in the house saying, F you bitches, I'm not on probation anymore. She thanked my mom. She hugged my mom. She was so happy when she came home. And she had rushed out the door. Now, I didn't realize she left that day. I was sitting here on the phone talking about somebody else's brother that had passed away, and I didn't really realize that she had left. Well, when I figured out she was gone, I had called my grandma and said, Grandma, where did Whitney go? And she said she left. And I said, she's dead if she left. I'm telling you, she's dead. And my grandma said, well, what are we going to do about it? And I'm like, I don't know, So I tried calling her, no answer. I get a call from the state saying that they had given me my LPN license because I had gotten all my charges dropped and I was officially, free to practice as a nurse. So I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm all happy. I go to call her, no response. Now I'm getting really worried. It's the day before Thanksgiving. I go out with my kid's dad to go see my kid's dad's sister and their family to have dinner with my daughter. And on the way, I'm driving and all the lights on my dashboard go off, all of them. Like your warning lights go off. So I start freaking out. I pull over. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't deal with this. What? In a second, I'm almost done. I'm telling the story about Whitney. Almost done, honey. 1 second. So then when I get home, no, listen, baby, 1 second, please. So then as soon as I pull over, the second I pull over, the lights all come off and I feel this like pressure throughout my body. And I start feeling like I'm having an anxiety attack. And I tell my kid's dad, I said, I feel like a spirit is visiting me. Shh, you gotta be quiet, honey. I feel like a spirit is visiting me. Now, my good friend Ryan had passed away 3 days prior from being very sick with septicemia. And I was thinking that it was him that was visiting me. I was sure it was a spirit, and I was sure it was somebody I loved, but I didn't know it was my sister because I didn't know she had passed. So I was calling my sister over and over again, feeling like this pressure and this anxiety. I couldn't even drive, and I had to stay pulled over. Well, then I get back on the road. I feel a little better, and I get to CVS, and it kind of just stops. So I start calling my sister again, and then Tyler calls me, her boyfriend, and he says, I can't get a hold of Whitney. He's panicking. He's screaming. He's crying. I can't get a hold of her. I can't get a hold of her. So I start calling her. I'm calling everywhere. I get down to the dinner where we're having the dinner at my kid's dad's house, and we're all sitting there around the fire in the living room, and we're, making Thanksgiving dinner, cooking, whatever, and I get a call or I see a message on my phone saying Whitney overdosed. Now, I'm thinking that she overdosed and didn't die because a lot of times people overdose and don't die. So I call my grandma and she says she died. And I remember my whole world just went black and white. It was like I felt myself literally fall to the ground without moving. And it was the craziest thing. It was like a rip in the fabric of reality. If I could explain it, I don't want to have to explain it because I hope you don't ever have to feel this way, but like the words like your sister passed away and is no longer alive. It was something that I haven't experienced in a long time since I was a child. And everything just stayed black and white to me. My memory is actually in black and white of this moment. And I remember calling Tyler and telling him that she passed away and everything was fuzzy. I couldn't remember like seeing straight. Everything felt like I was so disoriented. And I kept saying to him, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. We're going to get through this. We're going to survive this. We're going to make it, Tyler. We're going to make it. We're going to live. And, at that moment, like I knew I had to live for her. I had to live for my daughter. I had to live. Like I didn't have a choice. And I remember the look on my good friend, my daughter's aunt's face. I remember the look on her face because she had just lost her kid's dad. And the look on her face was like, this can't be real. Because we had just lost him and now I'm losing my sister, And it was like everybody just stopped, like they didn't know what to do because we're at this huge dinner party. And here I am just like staring into the distance, like my sister's dead. And oh my God, my sister's dead. I don't know what to do. What should I do? Should I go home? And like then my kid's dad drove me home. We left Lily there with my family. And we went to my mom's house. I got there. The cops had stopped there and told my mom. My mom was just sitting there, blankly. My dad was there. He was talking about what we were going to do for the funeral. My grandma was sitting there talking. And it was unreal. And all I could think in my mind was like, fuck heroin. Like fucking fuck heroin, And it's like all those years that I spent, living this life kind of just flashed before my eyes. Like, where did the time go? Where did I not realize I was leading my baby sister down this path? Where did I not realize that I had done wrong by showing her that this way of life was okay, And that's when I thought, like, where did she split off? Why were we in recovery together going to meetings and here she is dead? Why did this happen? And like, at that moment in time, I'm like, I have to do something about this. Like, I can't let her memory just die and float away into the abyss. Like, and I've learned over time, over the last couple months that she is with me in spirit. She is around. There is an afterlife. I've had dreams where she's come to me and told me like, I'm okay. I've had dreams of meeting like random people that I've never seen in my life that are coming to me to tell me that I'm going to be okay. I've gone through extreme depression where, I didn't know if I was going to make it through to the next day and didn't really know how to talk about it or how to vent about it. At first, when I did her memorial, and I went up and I spoke at her memorial. I basically spoke throughout like the whole thing, and I kind of like ran her memorial, and I feel like everybody thought I was kind of robotic. It didn't make sense, you know. They're like, oh, why is she so happy? Why is she smiling? Why is she running this memorial without a problem? But like, I remember listening to the song dedicated to my sister, and I almost broke down and like cried, and I couldn't do it. I'm like, Whitney, give me the strength to not do it. I don't want to cry here. I just don't. And, you know, I spent weeks after that feeling nothing. But in reality, I was deathly afraid of the car that she passed away in. I had to drive it, and I was so scared to drive it. Every time at night I would go to get in it, I would cry. I would be hysterical in the car. And, like, I just went through a lot of different phases. And now that car is my best friend. I drive it every single day. I drive the car that she passed away in because it's the car that, you know, connects me to her. I have her ashes in this necklace. And the other day, I finally pulled her ashes out, and it was so hard. You know, I was fine. I got up. I pulled the bag down. I ripped a little piece, and I pulled a little bit out to put in the necklace, and I was shaking. I'm like, why am I shaking? I'm fine. And I could feel her energy, like this bang of energy hit me in the face. And it was so crazy. It was like all that anxiety and depression had hit me like it did her. And it's weird because, like, they say energy is not created nor destroyed. Well, that's the truth. And I feel like a lot of her residual energy is still there in her ashes. And it's, like, so sad to think, like, that's what we are when we die. We're just this, like, bag of ashes, you know. And it's really hard to look at. It's sitting right in front of me, and it's hard to look at, you know. But I don't know. I feel a lot of different things. And I feel like there's a lot of good I can do in this world. And there's a lot of good that you can do, too. And I'm, like I said, I'm not perfect at all, you know, and I do have guilt. I do have remorse. I do feel things. There's people I owe money to, you know, but in general, like, I feel like her death has definitely helped people in a lot of ways. And I don't want it to be a waste. I don't want her life to be a waste, because it definitely wasn't a waste, and everything happens for a reason. And I know that. And I know that my purpose in this life now is to help people and to spread love and light. And I'm going to start practicing spiritual healing and doing a lot of things to get better, you know, because, like, we're very sick people regardless of no matter what, you know, we are. Everybody's sick to a level mentally. And I think we can always do better. We have, like, good and bad, and we can feed one or the other. So if you want to do good, you feed the good. If you want to be bad, you feed the bad. Both sides rest in all of us. There's nobody here that's exempt from being good or bad, you know, and it's just a label, you know. And I think that we do have souls, and that we will live on, and that my sister is with us. She's probably with me right now, you know, getting mad over half the things I told you on live. But that's okay. So, yeah, you know, love who you love while you have them. And if you want to go live, or if you want to be a part, I would love to do live interviews with people. That would be awesome. Also, like, we could do, like, chat to chat, where, like, you get on your phone, and, like, your face shows up, and then my face shows up, and we can talk about things. I'm going to post, like, 2 videos here soon in a second. I love you all. Even if I don't like you, I still love you. I want you to live. I want you to get better. So feel free to message me. Don't be creepy, though. If you hit on me, I'm not going to mess with you. So if you hit on me and start saying weird, creepy ass shit to me, I'm not going to be like, yeah, let's have you come chat. No, you're not coming to my house if you hit on me. That's all I'm saying. So, you know, just be respectful. Respect me. I'll respect you. Pretty simple stuff. All right. Thank you all. Feel free to share your story. I want to hear your story. Thank you. Much love.